Hello and welcome to September 2021. My name is Lynette Clement and I am reading from the Learning by Design section of the Love Exquisite Magazine, which you can access for free at loveexquisite.com. I'm reading an article titled Perception. Perception is defined as the ability to see, hear, and become aware of something through the senses, a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something, a mental impression. Perception usually forms when you have assumed a thing to be what you think it is. Each of us have our own perception and how we perceive people and the world around us. Your perception of a thing is not always factual because it is usually based upon your own understanding and interpretation of the phenomenon. We do not have all the answers, which is why it is important to keep an open mind about the way we perceive anything. As we know, an interpretation can be biased based upon how we process information, how we think. These biases can derive from your own life experiences to similar situations. Biases are where misinterpretations can take place as well. To avoid misinterpretation, ask for the meaning of the thing that you are trying to understand so that you can get a better understanding. Have you ever read a book or watched a movie and derived at a different conclusion from other people who read the same book or watched the same movie? I have. And that's usually based on how we perceive information. So, again, everybody processes information differently. So, have you ever thought you knew someone or you judged them based on your own biases, and then when you got to know that person you realize, oh, you're not what I thought you were, whether good or bad? So sometimes you might look at a person and say, oh, she thinks she's cute, or oh, he thinks he's cute, or all of that, or she looks stuck up or he looks stuck up, and then you actually got to know the person and you say, oh, they pretty cool, they pretty decent, not what I thought they were. So that's our perception, and our perception is not always accurate. So again, it's always best to get to know the person before you base an assumption about who you think they are based on who you are. Or sometimes you might say, well, this person is doing this because and the reason you think that is because you would do it for that same reason. The reason why you would do something is for the reason that you're thinking somebody else is doing it, but that person is not you. So just because you would do something one way does not mean that the other person is doing it for this with the same intention that you are. So for example, if somebody said, oh, I was talking to Lynette and she was waving her hands and moving her head around, then if a person who don't know me, they would probably say, oh, she was doing this, she was doing like this. No, that's your perception. I talk with my hands a lot, as you can see from these videos, and I move my head around a lot, but I'm not going like this. But some people might perceive it if they didn't actually see it themselves and they just heard it. They would assume that when they say a person was talking with their hands in their head, that they was talking with their hands in their heads like this. But that's not the case. So as you can see, your perception is not always accurate. So ask questions to get to the facts before you make an assumption on why a person is doing something or where that person is coming from when they say or do something. It isn't always for the same reasons that you probably would or would not. So different conclusions to the same or similar phenomenon usually happens because of how we perceive what we read or see. To fully understand anything, we have to know the true meaning, the facts behind the phenomenon without making assumptions. Get the facts by asking questions before you form an assumption. People usually think how they are based upon their own thoughts and behaviors, and they assume that everyone else is like or thinks like them. However, because we are not all the same, we are not all the same. I repeat, we are not all the same. And we do not always think and behave in the same way. It is not always good to make false assumptions that are not accurate. Our perception is how we view things, people, and the world around us. So be careful how you view things, people, and the world around you. Be curious enough to get to a better understanding of things by doing your own research on a specific topic of interest. So if it's a topic that you're interested in, do your own research on that topic. Be inquisitive enough to ask the person questions that you want to know the answers to so that you can get an understanding of who that person truly is and not who you think that person is based on your own perception or the way that you are, like your own perception or the way that you are, because you might think, again, if a person is doing something, like if you say, well, oh, they're only doing this because they want something from you. Well, that might be how you think, but that's not necessarily how that person might think. The person just might be doing it because they're just nice, period. So don't make an assumption. Just get to know people, places, and things. When you I mean we wait when you perceive anything, be open to asking questions. So I'm going to read that again. When you perceive anything, be open to asking questions to get to the facts about an idea, a thought, a person, or any type of phenomenon. Never assume. Never assume. To get a more accurate perspective about something, always ask questions directly to the person you are forming an opinion about, if it is a person. So I'm going to read that again. To get a more accurate perspective about something, always ask questions directly to the person you are forming an opinion about. Never go on a one-sided story. Always ask for both sides of the story, because people don't always tell everything. Get to know the person that they're talking about so that you can get an understanding of that person and their behaviors and their whys. So your perception could be misleading, which is why it is not always good to try to persuade people to always agree with you or to think like you do. So sometimes people say, well, you're doing this because, and they state the reason that they would do it, but everybody's not the same. So try not to persuade people to say, oh yes they are, because you might hear, oh yes you are, and they say, no I'm not. Well, what would make you think that? Why would you think that? Or what would make you think that? You might hear that conversation a lot. Or so it's based on your own perception. So expand your mind and open your heart and eyes to the world around you beyond your own understanding. Get it? Perception. It's just our perception. A perception is just that. It's a perception. It doesn't mean that your perspective is right. It doesn't mean that your perspective is wrong. It's all in how you process information, how you receive the information that you are given, and how you receive people in the world around you, how you process those phenomenons, that stimuli, or whatever it is that you're trying to get to a better understanding of. So the word in the learning by design section is perception. So you might think that your perception of something is right, but the only way to test the accuracy of that is data, with data, the facts. So data driven decisions are the best decisions. So get the facts so that you can make informed decisions and so that you can formulate a more accurate description of the situation or of the person. So perception. Be mindful of that Be mindful of your perception, because you are not always right. You can find that in the September 2021 issue of the Love Exquisite Magazine. Perception. Get it? Got it? Good.